Hello everyone, welcome to another Python video. In this video, we're going to be doing the average calculator. We're going to create a program that calculates the average of the marks that user inputs. The user is allowed to input any amount of marks as long as as many as they want, as long as it is a 0 to 100. That made sense. But here we go. So here's the solution plan. This is our very first program in a while where we're going to actually utilize a while loop. We're going to create an infinite loop with the variable set to true. And we're going to set the variable to false when the user inputs exit. So that will be, like, we'll put that in an instruction somewhere. And we're going to add any valid marks to a variable and count the number of valid marks as well. And after exiting, we can calculate our average. Okay. Well, the mean calculation is equal to total sum. Let's write this in more English. Sum of data, all divided by the amount of data. Okay, so you add up all the data you get, and then you divide it by the amount, and that should be how you calculate mean, and that's the average formula that we will be using. So we're going to create an infinite loop. Very simple. We're going to say, I'm going to create a variable called loop, set it to true. And I'm going to go, right, that while loop. As long as this loop variable is true, we're going to continue to loop and execute this code. Okay, we're going to need to add valid marks to a variable. So we're going to say total sum, set that to 0. We're going to initialize that, and we're going to have a counter. So we're going to have a counter set to 0 as well. Okay, so we have those two variables initialized. We have this initialized for the loop, and we'll be manipulating this in every loop. Okay, and then we're going to say user input. All right, and then we can say, enter the mark, or we can say exit to stop inputting. We'll do that. Okay. So we're going to say first, if user input is equal to exit with a capital E. If you wanted to, you can do dot lower to make it all lowercase and do dot capitalize to have the E capitalized there. And if that is equal to exit, then we're going to set loop false. And if false, if you really wanted to, you could just break out as well. So that's going to exit the loop. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to do the following. We're going to say if user input. We're going to do what's it called, comparison chaining here to say that I want to get marks only from that range. We're going to say 0 less than equal to and less than equal to 100. So as long as our user inputs like equal to 0 or equal to 100, or within this bound where it's greater than 0 and less than 100, we have a valid number. So we have a valid input. We should actually convert it to an integer. So let's say mark int user input that, and then we're going to actually convert that to mark. So at this point right now, we have converted user input to mark, and as long as mark is between this range, we have a valid mark. That means we can add total sum plus equal mark, and then our counter is going to go up by 1 because we found we were able to add a mark, so we're going to update that. Otherwise, we're going to print invalid input. Okay. We're going to do that, save our work, and let's test this code. Okay, so if I were to type exit, it's going to exit our code. If I were to type it like that, it would exit our code, all caps. Any variations of exit was help us do that. So basically, I take a string object and apply the lower method and also capitalize it so that it can match something like this. And the stuff that we learned right here will be a general lesson that we will learn when we start our string unit. Okay. But break allows us to exit the loop, and just in case for cleaner programming, I put loop is equal to false so that this looping variable turns to false whenever this is true. Otherwise, we get to go into this area. So let's say I put 200, it's an invalid input. If I put -1, that's an invalid input because that goes beyond our allowances of mark, right? But if we also said hello, right, we're going to get an error because we can't really convert that into an integer. So we will learn how to handle such input later on in the future. But for now, we're going to assume that they're either going to write the word exit or they're going to give us numeric inputs. So let's say we got a 90, 55, 97, 98, 62, and 2, and we're going to exit. Okay, so it did what we wanted to do. It did the total sum, added that to added the mark to total sum, and added 1 to counter every time. But what I forgot to do in this case is when we exit the loop, we forgot to display our answer. So we can say print. We can create average here. Our average is equal to total sum divided by a counter, and we can do an f string. Your average is average. Put a period like that. So let's clear our screen and try testing that again. Where there's our code. Let's input 80, 94, 97, 99, and exit. So our average was 93.75, and there we go. We were able to exit by writing something like this, and we learned how to use an infinite while loop to help us out, and we were taking valid inputs until we wanted to stop, and this is a nice use of a while loop. As always, thank you for watching. Stay classy.